Am I the a-hole for yelling at my grieving mom? My 17 male mom, 46, wanted to reconcile recently. I live with my grandparents since I was 8. My dad died when I was 2, and I just have some pictures of but no memories with him. She remarried when I was 5 and immediately dumped me on my grandparents after her first new baby. Every attempt to contact her from my side was blocked, like it never existed. I'd stalked her on every social media platform until someday I just gave up. She had 2 children from her new husband, who I don't consider my stepdad. A few months ago, she had a car accident in which she had survived, but all her children died. I never attempted any funeral for them, or had any relationship as siblings, as they were just strangers who happened to share part of my DNA. However, a week ago, my grandparents called me down to the kitchen, and she was there. It was totally weird to see her after this long time. And before any words were exchanged, she cried and attempted to hug me. Of course, I pushed her away and asked what she was doing. My grandparents stayed around but said nothing, while my mom cried and said that I'm the only one left of her children. My temper was never so heated like before, but I yelled at her that she hasn't any children left and already lost every one of them. My grandpa had to drag me away to my room to prevent me from doing something stupid, and she left our house after that. Since this week, I really cannot sleep and have been thinking about it a lot. While my hatred of her just flamed up again, I really regret what I said to a woman who just lost her children. My grandparents just said they're not surprised how I reacted and they can't blame me for that. But maybe they just say that because they're close to me. That's why I want to ask strangers. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. She dumped you for her new family and then expected to pick you back up as if nothing had changed between you two when they were gone? She has no right to a relationship with you. I think your reaction was entirely understandable, and while I understand why you feel bad about it, you shouldn't. Just jumping on this to say this is unfortunately more common than you think. There are plenty of stories on here that are similar, and maybe you can find some comfort in knowing that your reaction is completely understandable and borderline warranted. Not an a-hole. Like that story where the OP was dumped on her grandparents so her parents could focus on her terminally ill sister. 7 years later, she passed away and the parents came back to 19-year-old Opie like, "Your sister has died, so we got time to be your family now." Opie told them that they only have one daughter but she died, and pretty much told them to go pound sand. Only difference is that Opie's mother never planned on coming back for Opie at all. She just came back because her other kids from her new marriage died, and was like, "At least I have a spare kid." I don't blame Opie in the slightest for telling her she effectively has no kids. She brought it upon herself as far as Opie wanting nothing to do with her. Not an a-hole, Opie. Good God, I am so sorry. She treats you like a damned spare tire. I am glad your grandparents are there to support you. I hope that sometime in the future you will realize that you're worthy of respect and love, even though your mom did not give those to you. Good luck, Opie. Exactly. What happens when she has other children again? No good mother abandons their children because they got married. Save yourself future headaches and go no contact with her. She doesn't deserve you. You sweet baby. Don't lose a wink of sleep over this. She ambushed you for her own selfish needs, and years of pain and hurt poured out of you because she never would let you express it before. It does not matter what she just lost. She was your mother and you lost her. You don't owe her anything. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my parents after they confessed that I'm the product of an affair? I'm 23 female and moving out of state to attend college soon, and I couldn't be any more ecstatic. Unfortunately, I just had a massive bombshell dropped on me that has flipped my head upside down. A bit of background. I have triplets brothers that are 33 years old, my mom 56 female, and my dad 60 male. Growing up, my siblings and parents have always been my biggest support system. I love them all dearly, and they've always been there for me whenever I needed someone. This makes the whole realization even crazier because I just don't know what to think. Earlier today, my parents came into my room and said that they needed to talk to me about something. Both of them, especially my mom, looked petrified. My mom was tearing up and shaking. My mom pretty much just blurted out that my dad is not actually my bio father. My mind went blank, and I honestly thought it was all just a prank. My mom told me that 23 years ago, she and my dad were going through a lot of marital issues. She reconnected with her old high school boyfriend, and they ended up sleeping together. They only hooked up once, and 1 month later, my mom found out she was pregnant with me. She confessed everything to my dad, and she also informed my bio-father. My bio-father was a massive substance user and wanted nothing to do with me or my mom. My dad then decided to forgive my mom, and they wanted to work things out together. Unfortunately, when I was about 3 months old, my bio-father passed away. So my dad decided that he would take over the role as my father and legally adopted me when I was 2. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I kept waiting for them to tell me this was all a joke. To make things even more shocking, all my brothers have known about this since I was 2 years old. My parents made them swear that they would never tell me the truth, that it had to come from them. My mom kept crying and saying that she wanted to tell me sooner, but there never seemed to be the right time. I admit, I snapped, cried and yelled at them. I just couldn't keep it any longer. How could you all keep this from me? Why tell me right before I leave the freaking state? They said they didn't want me to feel any different, or potentially feel guilty about what happened to my bio-father. They said they wanted me to have a happy childhood, but they just couldn't hide it anymore, especially now that I'm moving out. I stormed out and went to go stay with a friend. Now my parents have called and begged me to forgive them, but my brothers are all pissed at me and said that I'm being way too harsh on them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They chose to do it before you left as to avoid having to deal with the consequences after. This is an easy logical leap, but I doubt it is accurate. Have you ever had a secret? It's truly hard and terrifying to divulge, and so easy to put off for one day, then the next. Then this sub exposes you to a lot of tales of really poor humans. But I think this is more likely a case of flawed people letting their love and personal convenience blind them. Opie is not the a-hole. That kind of news is a betrayal and incredibly emotional. However, she needs to search her heart, because a bunch of strangers don't know her parents. Sounds like she has a mother who made a huge mistake and a father that chose her and stepped up for her whole life. If the realities of her life are otherwise, then that must be dealt with. No matter what, I hope Opie takes advantage of whatever counseling services exist at her new school. Ultimately, Opie should know this doesn't change who she is. Take time and space to process, but she has an incredible opportunity and this should not ruin that. Have a great time in college, Opie. You're gonna be fine eventually. Not the a-hole. I'm adopted, and I couldn't imagine being told that way, although I would have figured it out because I'm a different race. I'm of the belief that you tell your children early in a way that they can understand. You don't lie to your children to save face. I'm sure you would have loved your adopted dad just as much if you had always known the truth. Yep, same here. I feel for Opie as a fellow adopted person, but I was raised knowing it. I can't imagine how messed up I'd have gotten if my parents waited to share that with me until I was an adult and tried to gaslight me on the memories I have prior to my adoption for decades. They waited until you turned 23, long past the death of your bio-father, and made your brothers not say anything towards you. Even if you had a wonderful childhood, I would be beyond upset to find out that I was born out of marital problems. Also, they wait until you are right about to leave. Of all times, did they need to wait that long to drop a bombshell? You were not the a-hole because of not necessarily how for not being able to have a relationship with your dad. It wasn't their fault he died when you weren't even in kindergarten yet, but for how they handled it. I don't think they should have waited till you basically were flying solo to tell you something this big. And your mom had a waterworks when she should have expected her own daughter to snap. You were basically born because of them nearly divorcing and your mom's infidelity. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to get over it, knowing that she's struggling with infertility? My wife, 38 female, and I, 42 male, have been trying for a child since we tied the knot 6 years ago. We haven't had any success. We have had failed IVF treatments and miscarried again and again. This has obviously taken a toll on my wife. I own a business, and a year after my wife and I got married, I hired Noah, 26 male. Noah has a fiancée, Taylor, 26 female. Noah and I get along great, and he's like a second son. I have one from a previous marriage, and we have a good bond. Taylor is also a great girl. She's very kind, and they seem very happy in their relationship. Now, my wife has always had some sort of animosity towards Taylor. I'm not sure why, she just seems to get very angry around her. Early on in meeting one another, Taylor tried to talk to my wife, but she would always brush her off or ignore her. My wife has also told me she thinks Taylor is too stuck up, only because she comes from money. Over the weekend, we all attended a gathering and we ran into Noah and Taylor. Now, Taylor is a very slim girl, and her stomach is usually flat, but she looked very bloated. She sat for a majority of the party and was only drinking water. She also wasn't as dressed up as she usually is. Noah had talked to me a few days prior asking me for tips on being a dad. It said they were expecting. So I knew this, but it slipped my mind to mention it to my wife beforehand. A few of the other women at the party asked Taylor if she was pregnant, and she said yes. They then asked her how far along she was, and she said she was only 11 weeks, but they were expecting triplets, so she looked a lot bigger than she would had they been having one. My wife lost her mind, to put it lightly. She started accusing Taylor of always trying to one-up her, and of being a stuck-up witch. Taylor started sobbing, and I quite literally had to drag my wife out of the party and drive home as Noah and the other guests were trying to console Taylor as we left. To say I was livid would be an understatement. We went back and forth, and I told her that she would need to get over whatever hatred she has towards Taylor, because she has done nothing wrong, and that our fertility issues is not the fault of another person. She called me an unbelievable a-hole, and we haven't spoken to each other since. I talked to Noah and Taylor earlier today, and they said they were fine. Taylor said she understood but didn't mean to upset my wife. She also said that she's just very sensitive and emotional. I told her it wasn't her fault, and that I hope she has a safe pregnancy, and that they could reach out to me for any help. My wife overheard this and called her sister. And now they're both calling me an a-hole for siding with Taylor and Noah. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife needs some help. She seems to be under a lot of pressure and taking it out on the wrong person. I'd say that jealousy is eating her up at a young pregnant married woman. Logic isn't your wife's friend at the moment. If she is taking fertility drugs, that doesn't help. They make you crazy. I remember being on them and everything was so over the top emotional. I was in them and after trying for a long time, taking temp, tests, pain and sadness, and that feeling that you're somehow a failure as a woman. The young woman from my church got pregnant right after she got married, and I was heartbroken. I didn't begrudge her the joy and excitement of her pregnancy, but I was sad and jealous, and it's likely part of it. Not the a-hole. Your wife really needs some counseling. She has a huge broken heart with everything she's going through. Taylor, unfortunately, was the outlet of her pain. 100%. Infertility is extremely stressful and emotional, speaking from experience. My fertility doctor usually recommended therapy to me after I fell apart in the doctor's office after my first failed treatment. Therapy and support groups helped me enormously. It doesn't make the pain and grief go away, but it gives you tools to learn how to deal with it. OP definitely needs to, sensitively, bring up therapy or some type of support group. It sounds like his wife needs an outlet for her pain. Not the a-hole. But has your wife had any therapy? Trying for 6 years with losses and failed IVF would be incredibly hard. And the fact that he has a child with another woman could also factor in somehow too. Not the a-hole. How would it even be possible to take a side in someone else's pregnancy? It would have been helpful for your wife to have time to prepare, but she will, from time to time, be present when a pregnancy is announced. I would strongly encourage your wife to speak to someone about her reaction because that sounds pretty over the top. Grief is a strange and powerful thing. There's no shame in needing help to navigate it. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for returning to older family traditions and not keeping any of the newer ones? This has stirred some controversy in my family and I need some honesty on this. I got married recently, eloped, and my husband and I are now expecting a baby together. We tried to create traditions for our family that are a mashup of our favorite traditions from the past. For me, those traditions were ones from when my mom was alive, and those are the ones I reflect on fondly. But the problem is, my dad remarried and those traditions were replaced with new ones. And everyone in the family, my 2 younger siblings, step-siblings, half-siblings, dad and dad's wife, prefers the newer ones. And they're hurt I didn't take any of those traditions into my new family. It only came up because one of the traditions was pregnancy related, and I said no to taking part in it. They asked why, and I said it wasn't a tradition I was fond of or wanted to carry forward into my family. Then my dad starts asking if I'll stop doing all the others. Christmas bouncing around everyone's houses and dinners, huge extended family photos done by every individual family with an extended family, etc. And I said yes, that we were only doing our favorites from our childhoods and mine were all from when mom was alive. He said it would break his wife's heart, and my siblings/half-siblings/step-siblings, because I'm rejecting the traditions we carried as a family. I said I wasn't going to cut my actual favorite traditions again just for their feelings. He told them, and now they're all upset in different degrees of mad at me. His wife said I might never have wanted her to be my other mom, but I should treasure the family and the memories of the whole family by carrying some of them on. I explained to her it wasn't meant as a rejection. I just always wanted to keep those old traditions alive, because it's bringing part of my mom through. She told me that might be important to me, but I should think about how they all feel, and how it seems like the family we call created was never anything but second best. I told her I still got to see all of them, but not my mom. And I bit my tongue, because it is kinda true the blended family was second best. To me it's like, of course I would prefer the family where my mom was alive. This is still an ongoing issue. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is a pretty damn easy one. You do you. If you don't like something, you have every right to stop practicing it. You are in control of your life, what you follow and what you choose to do. If people chose to get upset or offended by your actions, that's their problem. I feel like Opie's dad is just trying to stir up drama in the family. He is angry that his new wife clearly never replaced the mom the way she did for him, and feels bad that Opie is making that apparent now. Calling it right here. You're an adult. You don't need anyone's permission to live your adult life the way you choose. You get to decide entirely for yourself what traditions you wish to create and maintain. Not the a-hole. It's not real clear to me. Are you saying you are no longer willing to attend holiday dinners or take part in family photos that also contain your own siblings? If so, I can see why they are upset. I won't go from house to house December 24/25/26 anymore. If we can meet up around Christmas and celebrate, that's fine. But no moving around or having everyone just drop in over those days at random. And I won't be paying for photos of the whole bunch. I might still take part in the ones at my dad's. But in general, I'm not going to my dad's wife's family to take part, and I'm not going to pay to have them taken for me and my husband either.
Wife's friend wants me to fire someone to hire her, then sabotages a different job interview because it's beneath her. This one went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. For some backstory, I own a small business and our team are absolute rock stars. These are good people who could walk away at any time and land another job in minutes. We survived the pandemic that must not be named on Reddit with no layoffs, no reduction in pay, except for me, and transition to a 100% work at home, which remains in place. The savings we enjoyed by not renewing our lease actually helped us out a lot. We've worked together for a long time, with the least senior person being with us 7 years. A friend of my wife, I'll call her Stacy, is a complainer. She's one of those people who aren't happy unless they're not happy. My ever-patient wife, as demonstrated by putting up with me for 30 years, does her best to cheer her up. Last December, Stacy put in a vacation request for the week Christmas, a week before Christmas, when everybody else had already put in their request and was approved. Her request was denied, and she thought she would leverage the situation by quitting, only to discover they processed her voluntary termination after she went home. It's now May, and she's been out of work. She and other friends were visiting last Sunday for one of my wife's wine and crafts nights among her friends. Making small talk in the kitchen, I asked how her job search was going and she said it was going poorly. Then she asked me for a job. I didn't mind the ask. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. However, we're not hiring right now and I told her as much. Then she said, "You know I'm a hard worker. I actually don't. Why not fire someone and hire me?" It took me a second to process this before I explained our staff has been together for almost a decade. And I can't do that To which she replied, "You're the owner. You can do anything you want." No. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. A BS move like that would destroy the trust of the team. I apologized and made a quick exit before the conversation could continue. On Monday, I happened to be on the phone with another small business owner in town, I'll call him Bob, who said he was down a couple of people. I remembered Stacy's request. I told Bob what little I know about her work life, and he said to have her call. I told my wife, who passed it along to Stacy. Fast forward to today, Bob calls me. He led with, "How well do you know Stacy?" I was a little nervous, not looking to vouch for her, but also not wanting to torpedo her opportunity, so gave the best non-answer answer I could come up with. Bob then burst into laughter, explaining that his interview with Stacy lasted less than 45 minutes because she kept trying to interview not for the job he had available, but for other positions he already has filled. I apologized, and things are okay with Bob and I, but holy crap did this go south quickly. Now for the top comments. Now the petty in me would ask her how the interview went, so you can hear her side of her BS. Not just the petty in me. I would genuinely do that, because I had referred her and it would show at least some effort on my side. On top of that, it would give me great insight into her character past the previous 3 royal screw-ups she made. Why prolong your contact with this woman though? I'm concerned your wife is friends with her. He recommended a job opportunity to her after asking a business associate to give her an opportunity, and she blew it by being embarrassing. I would want to get a better read on her in case she name drops him as a reference down the road, which I wouldn't put past her. My wife sees her about 10 times a year when she and my sister-in-law host their monthly, mostly wine and some crafts, get-together, so I'm not too worried. Make sure your wife and sister-in-law know the true story. She may have a sob story she starts spreading around they need to counter. I'm not worried. First, because my wife was the first one I told this story to. Second, over our 30 years of marriage, we've learned to talk to each other before making up our minds. I had a similar experience with an acquaintance who volunteered at a local hospital. She signed people in and out of the employee exercise area, wiped down the machines, and cleaned the place up at the end of the day. The hospital hired a new doctor to work in the ER. His wife was a cardiac nurse. She sold the hospital on the idea of turning the employee gym into a cardiac rehab unit. The volunteer believed that she got fired because a doctor's wife wanted her job. I tried to explain that this woman came with a plan to create an income-generating program from space that was rarely being used. Her reply was, "I could do that." I said the new hire was really highly trained in the field. She said, "If they just tell me what they want me to do, I could do it." She could not understand that her being told to do something was not just as good as someone who knew what to do without being told. I never convinced her. It's the hardest thing in the world, and it takes great humility to stop blaming others and to start looking critically at yourself, at where you fell short of what you could have done, owning it, and working to improve. I did a harsh self-inventory recently, and I was disappointed in myself. I guess it's growth, but I'm having a hard time forgiving myself. So much wasted time and energy on the wrong things and people. Oh well, I'm just going to get back up in life. But man, that was harsh. Next story. My coworker's mom called me at work because her sweet boy had to stay late. So this happened last week, but I still think about it sometimes and feel both secondhand rage and pity. A new guy joined my team at the start of last month, who we will call Sam. Sam is a quiet guy, early 30s, polite to a fault, always looking over his shoulder like he's about to get in trouble. At first I thought he was just shy, but within a week, I figured something was off. He'd get these phone calls every 30 minutes, like clockwork. Eventually, I asked him if everything was okay. That's when he admitted it was his mother. She needed to know what he was doing at all times, like, literally, where are you sitting? What are you eating? Who are you talking to? Type updates. He said he was raised that way and just never broke the habit. I could see him shrink into himself every time she called, like the life got sucked out of him in real time. Anyway, it's the month end and we had to stay back late to wrap up some department reporting. Everyone stayed a couple extra hours. It was quiet. We were all working. and suddenly Sam's phone rings again. He steps outside. 2 minutes later, he comes back inside looking white as a sheet and says, "Hey, Mr. Coco, my mom wants to speak with you." I thought he was joking. He was not. He looked like he was about to cry. I took the call out of sheer disbelief. And oh boy, I wish I hadn't. This woman unleashed on me. "How dare you make my son work past office hours? He needs to come home and rest. You don't know what he's been through. Don't you know how dangerous the roads are?" I was too stunned to even respond properly. I just said, "Ma'am, I think Sam can explain the situation better," and handed the phone back. And that's when something amazing happened. Sam finally snapped. He didn't yell, but his voice was steady. "I need this job, Mom. You can't keep doing this. I'm staying late because that's my responsibility, and everyone is here too. Please just stop." It was quiet for a second, and then he just ended the call. Honestly, I was proud of him. I know how hard it is to stand up to your parents, especially when they tried to control you your whole life. We wrapped up an hour later. I offered to take him out for a cold drink just to decompress, and he looked like someone who had finally removed a 20-year-old weight off his chest. But when I dropped him off near his house, he gave me a small, awkward smile and just said, "Thanks, tonight's going to be rough." I haven't heard his mom's voice since then, but he still gets those calls. Just less frequently now. I really hope he makes it out okay. Some cages don't even have bars. You just carry them in your head. Some cages don't even have bars. You just carry them in your head. Words of wisdom for every young adult trying to make their way in the world. This is good advice. My dad was telling me I'm not college material and that I can't do it, and he tries to dictate so much of my life. If college was that hard, then millions of people wouldn't have been able to do it. Sometimes it takes creativity, sometimes it takes hard work, but it doesn't take smarts. The amount of people who actually know how to work hard are vanishingly few, but it's easy to learn when you're truly doing it for yourself. You should offer to ban phone use at work except during breaks or lunch. At least he would have peace for a few hours. That poor bastard. What a sad life. I would, but then I would have to ban my own phone as well, haha. But jokes aside, I know it would just be harder for him to manage his issue. He's a great employee and a better person. I just hope he can stand for himself by using this as a platform. His mom doesn't have to know what the rules are. You can say legitimately that you see him distracted by his phone during work time as a reason. I would at least offer it. My pushy Korean mom did this to me when I was 19. I was working at an Urban Outfitters, and they used to close at like 10, which meant on Saturday nights sometimes we didn't get to leave the store until 1 or 2 a.m. My mom literally came to the store at midnight and demanded to talk to my manager to let me go home. I was so embarrassed I angrily told her to go home and continued to close out. She never pulled that nonsense on me ever again, and I do wonder now if it's because I stuck up for myself in that moment. Oh geez, this reminds me of a story I still laugh about years later. It regards a Chinese mom. I am Korean, but I didn't grow up in a Korean family, so I generally haven't had the tiger mom thing inflicted on me. My son is a musician and was in band during high school. He always did all-region auditions, and this happened his senior year. 2 other moms from the same school, the Chinese one and a white mom, had come to support our kids. We were sitting in the cafeteria, waiting for them to finish, and the Chinese mom said she was going to leave because there were still several hours to wait. She said she had to tell her son she was leaving, but didn't know where he was. She said she was going to go look in all the classrooms until she found him. The other mom and I looked at each other in disbelief. We said, "You can't do that. That will interrupt the auditions and could negatively affect his rating, much less piss off the judges." But she said, "How will he know I left?" We said, because he will come out and you won't be there. He has a phone. He can call you." This kid was not helpless. He would have figured it out immediately. She kept saying, "I can't leave without telling him where I went." It was really kind of weird, but this mom was known for doing that sort of stuff. My son said that in summer band camp, she would come walking in with his lunch and start yelling for him. It was a joke among the kids. I also heard that in middle school, she would eat with him for lunch, common among many parents, but she would spoon-feed him in front of all his classmates. Ultimately, we convinced her to leave without finding him. I think we said we'd tell him where she went. When he went to college, he chose 1-2 states away. Last story. Am I the a-hole for sending my roommate only a third of our monthly rent? I, 21 male, moved in with my roommate, 23 male, last year. He is the older brother of my close friend who knew I was looking for a place, so he told me his older brother is also looking for a roommate. I don't have any formal agreements and I'm not on the lease. I have been sending my roommate half of the monthly rent and utilities for the last 8 months, always on time. Me and my roommate share food for the most part. No one goes overboard, but we are both fine with the other eating some of the items we buy. We are also in a kind of cycle where we take turns buying food, groceries, cleaning products, and we never really have had to ask the other to replenish anything. However, in February of this year, he got a new girlfriend who started staying over a few nights a week, which was perfectly fine. And she seemed cool, but since April, she has been staying here every single day and every single night. I am still paying 50% of the rent and utilities and groceries. We only have one bathroom, and she is in there anywhere from 1 to 3 hours per day. She also uses our food, like the bread I buy, meats, vegetables, snacks, and it all disappears a lot faster. It has been annoying me, but I've been letting it slide. I started keeping a lot more of my food and drinks in my room. But earlier this month, I noticed that an entire can of Pringles I kept in my room and 2 of my protein bars had disappeared. I know I didn't eat them, so when they went out, I also went into their room and found the Pringles in their trash can and my protein bars on her nightstand on her side of the bed, so I know it was her. But the final straw was on Tuesday of this week when there was some Greek yogurt in the fridge. I used maybe 1/4 of it to make a dessert, and later that day she extremely overreacted, opening the door to my room and started yelling at me to never again eat her Greek yogurt and called me a retard. Anyway, it's time for the month's rent, and I'm over it and ended up sending him only a third of the month's rent, and he asked why it was short, and I told him I'm not going to be covering her utilities, food, etc. He told me that's not how it works, and I have until the 31st to send him the rest of the rent. Otherwise, he's going to kick me out, and made sure to remind me I'm not on the lease. It would be mad annoying and inconvenient to have to find a new place, so I need to know if I am overreacting. Not the a-hole. Honestly, you shouldn't have let it go on so long, and you should address the fact that he or she went into your private room. I would let him know that since you've been there over 30 days, you are a tenant, and he can't kick you out. You would have to be evicted. You have already paid for his girlfriend for months, which was not the agreement. She needs to spend no more than 2 nights a week, or pay her share if she is going to stay, and they both need to stay the heck out your room. You're not overreacting, but you should have sat down with him and had this conversation before it got to this point. You still can. Just approach him in a more productive way. Tell him you'll do half this time, but explain all the ways in which it should be a third, and tell him that this needs to change one way or the other, particularly the utilities. The fact that you can't use the bathroom, a basic part of living somewhere, because she is always in it, and the fact that your food is always disappearing, and the one time you had something of hers, she freaked out on you. You aren't on the lease, but most likely he is illegally subletting to you, and you have a little bit of power in that you can let his landlord know what's going on. You living there, and the girlfriend basically living there now too, and causing problems. However, don't do that unless you are prepared for the consequences of going nuclear. The landlord could kick you out, but he'd probably kick out your roommate too, and things would be irreparable there. So try a nicer, potentially productive way first, because there probably is a way to solve this. But yeah, if he still says he's kicking you out and isn't listening, you should find a new place and then talk to the landlord. It's pretty messed up of your roommate. Also, in most states, lease or not, you've been there long enough to have established residency, and he cannot legally just kick you out without proper legal notice to vacate. Look up your state's tenancy laws if it comes to that. This is likely correct, but non-payment of rent is the easiest way to kick a tenant out, which means the agreed to amount of rent. OP probably needs to start looking for a new place to live. The tenant broke the agreement with OP by allowing a third party to come live there for free. OP can drag this on and get the tenant in trouble with his landlord if it comes to it. And then what? The landlord kicks them both out? Is OP really going to blackmail his roommates into reducing rent under the threat of mutually assured destruction? Besides, I highly doubt the verbal agreement he had with his roommate included a no girlfriends being over too often provision. OP needs to either find a new place or have a friendly discussion with his roommate about agreed upon boundaries.